Hello there, and welcome to the Bicycle Diaries, and welcome to week 21 of my Mallorca training plan, which means I have just under 4 months to go before the big event. So okay, yes, I have had a bit of a haircut, but due to lockdown it's one of these DIY ones, so okay, it might not be the most stylish, but at least it's preventing me from looking any more like Wurzel Gummidge. Well, kind of. Anyway, moving swiftly on, the weather this week so far hasn't been great, and I must admit I have been a little bit lazy, but nevertheless I still plan on going out on Saturday because I'd like to commemorate the anniversary of a world event that's intimately linked with this area where I live. So without further ado, let's crack on with the ride.
Welcome to today's ride, and as you can probably hear, it's very windy. In fact, the weather is so different than it was last week. Last week, if you were watching, clear blue skies, 25, 28 degrees Celsius, beautiful. And today it's like winter's returned again, very cold, and I think, if I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit underdressed as well, so I'm quite cold. Consequently, this is only my second ride of the week, and as it's D-Day, I'm going to go down to the village of Southwick and have a look and see what's happening there, and then I'll go along and continue up Portsdown Hill down into Portsmouth and see if there are any D-Day celebrations happening there. So yeah, hopefully I'll warm up. Eagle-eyed of you would have noticed that that's not the normal Bunkers Hill climb, and that's because I'm doing my normal Southwick route in reverse. So that short sharp little climb up Bunkers Hill is the one I normally ride down, and the one I'm descending now is the one I normally climb. So we'll be in Southwick in a few minutes. In 1944, the village of Southwick was chosen as the headquarters for the Supreme Allied Command, and the whole operation was planned here, which is why every year there's some sort of commemoration in the village. Well, I have to be honest and say that that was a little bit of a surprise, because I did go online before I started today's ride to see what celebrations they were doing in the village, and officially they were having a year off because of COVID, but as you could see there were plenty of old military vehicles there. I got chatting to one of the chaps, and he said that they didn't want to do anything official, they didn't want to advertise it because they didn't want crowds of people in the village, but they couldn't let the day go without some kind of commemoration. So there you go, there were all the old military vehicles in the village of Southwick. So now I'm going to do the big climb of the day up Southwick Hill, down the other side and into Portsmouth, and have a look at the naval dockyard, which obviously is another key site in the D-Day story. Riding along the walls of the Royal Navy dockyard here in Portsmouth, and as you can see, the roads are deserted. Unfortunately, we can't get in there today. Normally we can. You can go in and have a look at the historic ships in there, like HMS Victory and the Mary Rose, and it just chronicles the story of the Royal Navy dating back 800 years. Now, although we can't go in there today, we can still get a good view of the harbour and things like the Spinnaker Tower and HMS Warrior, which was Britain's first ironclad warship. And obviously on a day like today, there's the connection with D-Day. Many of the boats sailed over to France from Portsmouth here and took part in the invasion. The incredible story of the Allied invasion of Normandy is told in full here at the D-Day Museum in Southsea. Again, the museum is closed due to COVID, but normally on the anniversary there'll be a gathering of old vehicles and people in period uniform. It's good to see that there are still some here today despite the difficulties. In the spring of 1944, the whole of the south coast of England was basically one big military camp, and Portsmouth was the main departure point for all of the men and equipment heading to Sword Beach in France. Sadly for some, this was to be the last time they would ever see home. Just outside the museum is the Normandy Memorial Wall, commemorating the lives of the men and women of the armed services that took part in or supported the invasion. Southsea now into Eastney, where we'll go over to the Hayling Ferry Point and have a look at a literal concrete monument to D-Day. Out what they called mulberry harbours, which were basically giant lumps of concrete which were going to be used on the Normandy beaches or just away from the Normandy beaches, so the larger boats could dock at the proper harbour. And this particular one behind me was a mulberry harbour that they tried to float out, and as they were doing so it broke its back, and it remains there to this day. D-Day ride in the can. 40 kilometres in the bank of fitness. It's been very cold, very windy, and now I'm looking forward to getting home, having a nice cup of tea.
Now, although I said this ride was 40 kilometres, what I didn't take into account was the fact that I had to ride home from Eastney, which added another 20 kilometres or so, bringing this week's numbers to 91.8 kilometres ridden, 4 hours of seat time, and I've climbed 601 metres, bringing the year's totals to 2,447 kilometres ridden, 107 hours and 45 minutes of seat time, and I've climbed 15,370 metres. So if we go over to Strava and have a look at the fitness scores, we can see that on Monday it was 61, and then on Saturday it went down to 58. Obviously 91 kilometres is considerably down on the 251 that I rode last week, and that has to be because of the colder weather. Basically, I just wasn't overly enchanted at the thought of going out and freezing my arse off, which kind of suggests I'm a bit more cold-blooded lizard than I am wild-eyed tiger on the road to oblivion. But having said that, I don't really see that as a bad thing, as it has given me a bit of an opportunity to have a bit of rest and recovery. And as we all know, we need that from time to time. The only other ride that I've done this week was on Monday evening just before the weather turned. I went out with my cycling chum Curtis and we did one of my favourite routes up Bevis's Thumb. And to my surprise, I managed to get a PR. Now, I didn't beat it by just a couple of seconds, I smashed it by about 20, which really surprised me. And even on the D-Day ride, I was getting a few PRs on that without really trying. And even the climb up Portsdown Hill, I got a second best. And I was just ticking away going up there, so clearly something is happening with my fitness. Now, I did touch on this very briefly last week, and one of the explanations I came up with, even though I thought that it was pretty unlikely, was that possibly I had lost some weight and improve my power to weight ratio. Now, there was a moment of panic this week when the batteries in the bathroom scales were replaced, and like most people over lockdown, I kind of assumed that I'd put weight on. In fact, I thought I was probably going to be the heaviest that I'd ever been in my entire life. Basically, I would literally weigh, and I mean literally, twice the weight of your average boy band member. But to my surprise, when I got on the scales, I'd actually lost weight. So I'm about 7 kilos lighter than I thought I would be. All in all, it's not been the toughest week on the bike for me. Despite saying that having a period of recovery is a good thing, I do have to admit that I feel a little bit guilty about not getting the distance in. And unfortunately, the weather is not looking good for the next few days either. In fact, it's forecasting rain for the foreseeable future. Now this means that I'm going to have to resort back to things like Zwift and indoor cycling, but the challenge there is that the bike that I use on Zwift doesn't have any wheels and the speed sensor's been playing up, so it's not been connecting very well to the app. So I'm going to have to investigate that and get all of that sorted out so I can start doing some shorter, harder rides on Zwift just to keep my fitness up. Now there's still plenty of time to enter the Arkle bikepacking giveaway that I announced last week. If you'd like to win one of these handlebar bags, all you need to do is click on the links in the description below, go over to the Arkle website and sign up for their newsletter, and then Justin will pick out a winner in the next few days or so. So the best of luck with that. Hopefully you've had a far better week on the bike than I have, and thanks for watching.